Welcome to Infinite Universe with interesting episode. The first thing that strikes you about this place is the sheer scale of the building. It's a ghost city with ghost apartments. All these homes have been sold, but no one's moved in. They built castles no one ever lived in. Cities for millions that ended up echoing like tombs. Whole towns swallowed by sand, drowned by the sea, or burned from beneath. The treasures belong to two sunken cities which were thought to be the stuff of myth. These places were meant to thrive until something went terribly wrong. From Arctic ruins to desert illusions, you won't believe how fast dreams collapsed. And when you hear why thousands fled Pripyat overnight, you'll understand why no one ever went back. In 2014, the Saro Group began building over 700 stone mini-palaces in Mudernu, a town tucked between Istanbul and Ankara. Each one was styled like a French chateau, towering turrets and all. Prices ranged between $370,000 and $530,000 per unit. The target market was wealthy buyers from the Middle East. There were big plans, a shopping mall, thermal spas, even a movie theater, all powered by the region's hot springs. By 2018, only about half the homes had buyers. Then the economy tanked. Oil prices dropped. Investors vanished. The company owed over $27 million and went bankrupt. Today, Burj Al Barbers is a frozen fantasy, hundreds of castle shells, lifeless and locked behind fences. Locals never liked it. Environmentalists hated the trees being cleared. And yet it still stands, haunting the Turkish countryside with dreams that never finished. If Burj Al Barbers was a fairy tale interrupted, Ordo's city was a mega dream that overshot reality. Built during the coal boom of the early 2000s, Kangbashi district in Inner Mongolia was supposed to be the crown jewel of China's modern expansion. Government officials poured in billions, planning a futuristic city for over 1 million people across 130 square miles. Streets, towers, stadiums all constructed. But by 2009, most buildings stood empty. International headlines branded it the ghost city, especially after journalist Melissa Chan walked through quiet neighborhoods with more stray dogs than residents. Some say that label was unfair. Author Wade Shepard called it a work in progress, and he had a point. By 2017, the population had reached over 150,000. But that growth came at a cost. Residents were often relocated government workers. Infrastructure quality was questioned. Some buildings cracked within years. Still, right now, Kangbashi is alive, sort of. There's a museum, a library, and a slow but steady climb in population, but it remains a city that sprinted before it could crawl. All shine, little soul. Then there's Pripyat, not abandoned by economy but by disaster. Built in the 1970s to house workers of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, Pripyat was a Soviet model city. Nearly 50,000 people lived there, most of them young families. It had everything: schools, hospitals, shops, cinemas, and even an amusement park with a Ferris wheel scheduled to open on May 1, 1986. But on April 26, Reactor 4 exploded, the worst nuclear disaster in history unfolded 3 kilometers away. The eerie part: residents weren't told right away. Evacuation only began 36 hours later. Buses arrived. Families left, thinking they'd return in a few days. They never did. Today, Pripyat is frozen in time. Chalkboards still have lessons on them. Toys lie on floors. Nature has crept in, reclaiming every window and wall. It's not just a ghost town, it's a time capsule. And with the rise of dark tourism and Chernobyl-themed media, it's become a symbol not of abandonment but of how fast everything can change. Some places fade slowly. Krakow in southern Italy crumbled inch by inch. Founded before the 11th century, the hilltop town stood 400 meters above the valley, protected by cliffs and crowned with noble palaces. It had universities in the 1300s, castles used as prisons, and homes passed down for centuries. But it couldn't outrun nature. A plague hit in 1656, killing hundreds. In the 1800s, farming failed, and over 1,000 residents fled to America. Then came the landslides. In 1963, faulty infrastructure caused the ground to slip. By 1980, After a flood and an earthquake, the town was abandoned for good. But it wasn't forgotten. Today, Krakow is famous in a different way as a cinematic backdrop. From the Passion of the Christ to Quantum of Solace, it's a ghost town with Hollywood credits. And legends linger too, like the tale of Saint Vincenzo's relic that refused to be stolen. Like Krakow, Rogudi Vecchio clings to a cliff, but in this case, the Aspromont Mountains. Founded around the year 1050, the village sat high above the Amendolia River. It was rugged, remote, and ancient. People spoke Greco, a dialect rooted in Old Greek settlers. Even the name Rogudi is thought to come from words meaning full of crevices or harsh. And it was life there was isolated, with narrow paths and dangerous terrain. But disaster finally pushed residents out in 1971 and again in 1973. Floods and landslides struck. It became too dangerous to stay. The government ordered an evacuation, and a new settlement, Rogudi Nuovo, was built on the coast. The old town was left behind. Right now, Rogudi Vecchio stands in silence. Nature is now the only resident. Moss carpets floors. Trees grow through windows. Yet travelers still come, drawn by the haunting beauty of a place that once spoke Greek under Italian skies and now whispers through the wind. Next, we head to Zhongshan Island, east of Shanghai. Hutuwen was once a bustling fishing village. In the 1950s, over 3,000 people lived there, making a living from the sea. They had homes stacked on green hillsides, a school, and a working harbor. But the location was tough. Deliveries were hard. Schools and medical services were far away. As fishing became more competitive, residents began moving out. By 2002, Hutuwen was abandoned. But then something strange happened. Nature didn't just take over, it took over beautifully. Vines swallowed houses. Plants wrapped around doorways. The entire village turned green. Photos of this vanishing village went viral in 2015. By 2017, a viewing platform was built. Now, up to 90,000 tourists visit each year. Some former locals have returned as guides. Hutuwen may be empty, but it's far from forgotten, proof that even after a town fades, it can bloom again in unexpected ways. From green hills to concrete seas, Hashima Island, also called Gunkanjima or Battleship Island, sits off the coast of Nagasaki, Japan. Coal was found there in 1810, but serious mining didn't start until the late 1880s when Mitsubishi took control. They built seawalls, housing blocks, and Japan's first reinforced concrete high-rise by 1916. At its peak in 1959, Hashima had over 5,000 people crammed into a space less than 1 square kilometer. It was the most densely populated place on Earth. In the icy parts of the Arctic, there was once a town created by people who believed in a better future, even in the coldest places on Earth. This town was called Pyramiden, named after a nearby mountain shaped like a pyramid. It was first built by Sweden in 1910 and later sold to the Soviet Union in 1927. The Soviets saw something special in this frozen land and wanted to turn it into a place that showed their strength, creativity, and ability to live even in the harshest environments. They didn't just build coal mines, they created something close to a paradise for those willing to brave the cold. There were greenhouses full of plants, pig farms for fresh meat, a cultural hall for entertainment, and even a statue of Lenin, the famous Soviet leader, standing proudly in the middle of the town square. It was the northernmost statue of him in the entire world. By the 1980s, around 1,000 people lived there, most of them from Ukraine. They worked in coal mines and tried to live normal lives despite the freezing temperatures. But working in the Arctic was not easy. Coal mining there was expensive and dangerous. When the Soviet Union collapsed in the early 1990s, the money stopped coming. Things became worse in 1996 when a terrible plane crash killed over 140 workers who were returning to the town. 2 years later, in 1998, Pyramiden shut down completely. People left, and silence took over. Today, Pyramiden is like a frozen time capsule. The buildings are still standing. Inside the rooms, you can find typewriters sitting on desks, coffee mugs left behind as if someone had just taken a break, and even pianos waiting for someone to play them again. Only a few caretakers come back in the summer to guide curious tourists through the town. For most of the year, it is quiet, completely covered in snow and ice, watching over the water. The hammer and sickle symbol, representing the old Soviet Union, still sits untouched. It is like a ghost from the past, frozen in time. Far away from the Arctic, closer to the Black Sea, there's another forgotten town, Akhamara, in the region of Abkhazia. This town was also built by the Soviet Union, back in 1938. It was created for coal miners and later expanded after World War II when German prisoners of war were forced to help build it. The town was full of beautiful European-style buildings with arched windows, elegant balconies, and a peaceful train station. If someone had arrived there in the 1970s, they might have thought they were in Germany, not Georgia. At its peak, around 5,000 people lived in Akhamara. But the 1980s brought economic troubles. Then, in 1992, war broke out between Georgia and Abkhazia. Bombs fell, families fled, and buildings were destroyed. The town was torn apart by violence. Only a few residents stayed behind, refusing to leave their home. Today, only about 35 people remain. Nature has taken over what people left behind. Trees grow inside buildings. Ivy climbs up the walls of old apartments. Goats walk freely through the empty markets. Akhamara is still standing, caught between beauty and destruction. It's a place haunted by history but also proud, too strong to disappear completely. In the dry deserts of Namibia, there's another ghost town called Kolmanskop. In 1908, a railway worker named Zacharias Luala found a shiny stone near the town of Luderitz. It turned out to be a diamond. That discovery changed everything. German colonists rushed in, and soon, Kolmanskop became one of the richest diamond-producing towns in the world. By 1912, it had everything a luxurious town could need: an ice factory, a hospital, a school, and even the first X-ray machine in southern Africa. There were theaters, grand homes, and over 1,000 workers who lived like royalty in the middle of the desert. But the riches didn't last. By the 1920s, better diamond fields were found farther south. People packed up and left. By 1956, the town was completely deserted. The desert began to reclaim what was built. Sand started to fill the rooms of houses. The wind blew through broken windows. Now, Kolmanskop is like a dream for photographers. Some homes are filled knee-deep with sand dunes. Doors are half buried. Chandeliers still hang from the ceilings, lighting up nothing but silence. It's a place where wealth and decay now live side by side. Back in the American West, near the Superstition Mountains in Arizona, there's a place called Goldfield. It was born in 1892 when gold was discovered in the area. Almost overnight, a town was built. There were saloons, boarding houses, schools, butcher shops, and over a dozen businesses lining the streets. At one point, more than 4,000 people called Goldfield home. But the gold wasn't stable. By 1898, the main vein collapsed, and with it, so did the town's dreams. Businesses closed, and people left. In the early 1900s, a businessman named George U. Young tried to bring the town back to life. He introduced new mining equipment and opened up new shafts. It worked for a short time. But when George died in 1926, the town's second chance also died. Goldfield sat quiet for decades until 1984 when Bob Scoose bought the site. He began restoring it using old blueprints and whatever buildings were still standing. Today, Goldfield is a living museum. Visitors can tour the old mines, watch gunfight reenactments, and even drink root beer at the saloon. Though it failed twice, Goldfield found a way to survive not as a town of gold, but as a town of memories. In the Mojave Desert of California, there's another ghost town called Calico. It got its name from the colorful hills that surround it. In 1881, silver was discovered there, and soon more than 500 mines opened up. In just 12 years, over $20 million worth of silver was taken from the earth. Calico had everything: a school district, a meat market, hotels, saloons, and even its own newspaper. But in 1896, silver prices crashed, and the town emptied out. By the early 1900s, almost no one lived there. Then came Walter Knott, the man who created Knott's Berry Farm. In 1951, he bought Calico and restored it using old photos and local stories. In 1966, he gave it to San Bernardino County. Today, Calico is a mix of theme park and historical site. Tourists walk the same wooden sidewalks that miners once did. The old Silver King mine still stands. Calico didn't vanish, it simply changed its costume and became something new. Centralia, Pennsylvania, is a town unlike any other. It sits on top of a fire. Founded in the 1860s, Centralia was built above one of the richest anthracite coal deposits in the state. For years, mining brought money and jobs. But in 1962, everything changed. A fire started in an old coal pit near the town dump. It spread underground, lighting up the coal seams below. The fire never stopped. Efforts to put it out failed. By the 1980s, homes were sinking, smoke rose from cracks in the roads, and the air was filled with dangerous gases. The government decided to act. In 1983, they offered money to relocate residents. By 1992, most of the town was condemned, and only a few families stayed behind. The zip code was erased. Today, the fire is still burning underground, and experts say it could continue for another 250 years. Centralia is almost gone, but the fire remains a reminder of what lies beneath. In Kelso, California, there was no mining boom. It was simply a stop along the Union Pacific Railroad, founded in 1905 because of the natural springs nearby. Steam trains needed water, and Kelso had plenty. In 1923, a grand train depot was built. It had hotel rooms, a telegraph office, and a lunchroom for workers and passengers. During World War II, nearby iron mines helped fuel the war effort. Kelso grew to 2,000 people. But after the war, diesel trains replaced steam, and the mines closed. The depot shut down, and Kelso almost disappeared. In 1994, the National Park Service took over. They restored the depot, and in 2005 it reopened as the Mojave National Preserve Visitor Center. Now, visitors can walk through the same halls where railroad workers once rested. It's quiet, but it's not forgotten. Sometimes nature destroys a city. That's what happened to Plymouth in Montserrat. It was the capital of this small island and sat below the Soufriere Hills volcano, which had been asleep for centuries. But in July 1995, it woke up. At first, people hoped the volcano would calm down. Instead, it grew more dangerous. In 1997, massive flows of burning ash covered the city. Buildings were buried, the island's only port was destroyed, and over 4,000 people had to leave their homes forever. The government moved north, and Plymouth became like a modern Pompeii. Only rooftops stick out from the hardened lava. Streets are silent, but you can still see bank signs, traffic posts, and even a cricket scoreboard. A few researchers visit wearing gas masks, but the town itself is off limits. It is a city turned to stone. Sometimes cities aren't destroyed, they're simply forgotten. In Turkey, during renovations in the town of Midyat in 2020, workers accidentally broke into a cave. That cave led to tunnels, which led to rooms. Historians soon realized they had found an ancient underground city called Masyate. It's nearly 2,000 years old. Only a small part has been uncovered, but what's been found is incredible: homes, water wells, kitchens, churches, synagogues, and coins from as early as the 1st century. Experts believe that up to 70,000 people may have lived there, hiding from Roman persecution. It was carved into soft limestone and hidden for centuries. Some say it was buried on purpose. Others believe time simply swallowed it. Either way, Masyate was never truly lost. It was just waiting to be found again. In Egypt, something even more mysterious lies underwater. In 2000, archaeologist Frank Goddio made a stunning discovery in Abukur Bay. Using special tools, he and his team found an ancient city beneath the sea. It was called Thonis by Egyptians and Heraclean by the Greeks. Before Alexandria was built, this was Egypt's main port. Colossal statues, temple ruins, and hundreds of ship anchors lay in about 30 feet of water. Legends say Helen of Troy once hid there. Others believe Hercules himself first arrived in Egypt at that port. Only 5% has been uncovered so far. Most of Heracleion is still hidden beneath the waves. Not all ghost towns are created by nature. Some are made by cruelty. In France, during World War II, the quiet village of Oradour-sur-Glane became a place of horror. On June 10, 1944, Nazi SS soldiers came to the village. They gathered 642 people, men, women, and children. The men were shot. The women and children were locked in a church and burned alive. Only one woman, Marguerite Ruffranche, survived. After the war, France chose to leave the village as it was. A new village was built nearby, but the old one remains untouched. There are no cafes, no shops, just silence. Tourists can visit, but only as witnesses to a terrible past. It stands as a chilling reminder of how quickly peace can be destroyed. Finally, in Libya, the sands of the desert tried to hide one of the Roman Empire's greatest cities, Leptis Magna. It was originally founded by Phoenicians around 1000 BC and became a major Roman city under Emperor Septimius Severus. But after the Arab conquest in 642 AD, it was abandoned and slowly buried by sand. In the 1920s, Italian archaeologists began to uncover its wonders, including the Great Arch of Septimius Severus. In 2000, a German team found a huge mosaic showing gladiators in a Roman villa. Some myths say the city was hidden to protect its treasures, but the truth is it was simply forgotten. Today, Leptis Magna is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a grand city in the middle of the desert, protected not by walls, but by time and sand. Thanks for watching. Keep it and stay tuned. Like and subscribe our channel. Have a good day.